Coming up on this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society, the podcast has been out for less than a week and it already has DLC. It's dangerous to go alone, so the Nintendo Cartridge Society goes with you. Welcome to Nintendo Cartridge Society. My name is Patrick Ellers, and I am joined, as I am always joined, by my co-host, Pete Pfarr. We've got a good show for you today. We're going to be talking about the news from the week, including Reggie making some more news and interviews for publicity for his book, and a Xenoblade Direct incoming. And then on Thursday, Mark and I are coming up with missing Mario sports games. But in the meantime, my good friend Pete Pfarr from the Rum Wings podcast. How you doing?
I'm very well. How are you?
I'm good. I was traveling this weekend.
Okay.
I was in Wisconsin, where I went to school and where we both grew up and where you currently live.
Correct. Yeah. Thanks for saying hi.
Hey, well, look, because I got this from my mother too.
You could have helped me move this weekend.
No, thank you. I know. I was in town. I was in Appleton, Wisconsin, for my 15-year college reunion, which I think means I'm officially old. Mm-hmm. And it was great. I had just the best time.
Excellent.
Pete, thank you so much for hanging on this episode. We're going to have a fun time, but before we get into that, my copy of Sonic Forces for the Nintendo Switch. Would you like to borrow it? Pete, I'm not asking you, I'm asking the listener. If you would like to get on the list to borrow my copy of Sonic Forces, all you got to do is email us at nintendocartridgesociety@gmail.com and give us a mailing address. We don't go back for those things. You either hit it or you don't. Give us a mailing address where we can send you my copy of Sonic Forces. And this is my real copy of Sonic Forces. You play it for as long as you want. You send it back. It doesn't cost you anything.
Is it guaranteed to be your copy of Sonic Forces, though?
No, it may, in fact, be my copy of Untitled Goose Game, which is part of the same borrowing program. So it doesn't make the program flawed in any way, shape, or form. But just know that either way, you have the game for as long as you want. You play it for as long as you want. You send it back. And it's a perfect experience. Pete, have you played either of those games?
I played Untitled Goose Game on a plane, and it didn't. I thought it would grab me, and it didn't click for some reason, and I never went back to it.
I've not played Untitled Goose Game. Since I bought it, it's only been going out for people to play it. Here's another thing you can do if you don't want to borrow either of those games from me, is you can leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. We appreciate it when you do that, but if you are doing this on a platform that is not Apple Podcasts, we can't see it. And the thing that we like to do when we see a review is give you a shout out on this show. So if you leave a review, Apple Podcasts, we'll see it, we'll shout you out. Anywhere else, you got to email us or tweet at us or something, and then we can give you a shout out here. So thank you to everyone who does that. And then one last thing is that you can get on our Discord and, have some fun conversations with us about stuff that's going on in Nintendo. People are talking about games they're playing, new games, old games. It's kind of everything, and it's super friendly and approachable and fun. Everyone is super nice in there. All right, Pete, are you ready to get into it and talk about what we've been playing this week?
I am.
So I think we have both been playing Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge.
Yep.
Where have you been playing it? Have you been playing it on Switch or on another platform?
I've been playing it on PlayStation, which I realized was a bad move because now I don't believe it's cross-play, and so we can't play it together.
Ooh, yeah, that is a mistake. Here's the thing. I'm enjoying it enough that I may end up buying it everywhere.
Okay, very good.
Just for multiplayer purposes. I was playing this in Appleton in the Airbnb that I had rented with my friends that I was attending the reunion with. And we were truly living the dream of like the Nintendo Switch commercial, right? Where 3 of us had the game on our Switches, but there were 4 of us. And so Andrew and I were playing on one Switch in tabletop mode. He had one
fun.
Joy-Con, I had one Joy-Con, and then Ethan had his in handheld mode. Taylor had his in handheld mode, and we were playing 4 players simultaneous, all 4 turtles at once. It was so fun.
What did you think of the newly recorded and animated theme song?
I'm way into it. I think
me
it's
too.
so good.
I don't know why I didn't expect it, but as soon as I booted it up and saw that, I thought, oh, this is perfect. It's such a nostalgic hit, just all the way through. One thing, when I got to the ground chuck and dirtbag fight, I told like those guys were completely erased from my memory until I saw them the other night, and then I was like, oh my god, I totally had those action figures. So that was really great. And then
I remember you having ground chuck. Did you also have dirtbag?
I think so.
I don't remember. I like because every boss I got to, I had that like immediate like physical tactile memory, not of like seeing a character, but of like holding the action figure.
Right, and that's how it was for both of them for me.
Okay, all right. So
maybe
one
it
of us
was
probably did
a later edition or something.
Yeah.
But then also a little bit later, there's the foot soldier on the spider robot thing with the boxing gloves for feet, and I totally had that too.
Yeah, it was too. It's every now and then the game will throw something at you. It's so nice that it is focused on the sort of like continuity or world of the original animated series, because like there are characters that it uses that are like kind of exclusive to there, that don't appear in like the sort of modern comics or the original comics or in like any of the movies. They probably, I feel like the Archie run on Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles used everything. So they're, like Ground Chuck and Dirtbag probably appear in that, but like nowhere else. But there was one character that I encountered that I didn't remember at all, and it was Tempestra. Have you battled Tempestra?
I just did, maybe like an hour ago, and had no clue who she was.
I had no clue who she was, but the fact that she like summons holographic versions of Toka and Razor from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2: The Secret of the Ooze, I just I don't know. I love seeing those two characters. I think they're awesome.
Nice.
Let's see. So you just got through, was that like level 7 or 8 or something like that?
Yeah, I played a few after that. So the beach is what I played last with Leatherhead at the end.
Yeah. Leatherhead, as far as bosses in that game go, kind of a chump. I feel like he goes down easy.
Thought so too. I've been struggling with some of the bosses because that's something I was going to mention, is that with these brawling games, I don't ever feel like I'm like playing them well or even know how to play them well. I'm just kind of mashing and just getting hit every once in a while. But I thought I had the exact same thought, that he was particularly easy.
So do you feel like that is also your experience with Shredder's Revenge? Is that it also feels like you're mostly like mashing buttons and stuff? Or
it does, and that might be a failing on my part. Maybe there is depth to it.
I don't think we need to go as deep as something is a failing on your part.
But that might be just me not getting the game, like the gameplay, or maybe not approaching it the right way.
So the first couple levels that I played of this, I was playing 2-player with my friend Ethan, and Ethan is a very like in video games, one of the first things that he's like, that his mind checks for is like, is there a combo system? Can I cancel out of, what, like he's got a very fighting game approach to every video game. And so discovering the game mechanics with him meant that I spend a lot of time like dodging and like doing the moves to like knock the enemies up into the air and then like juggle them. And so like, I don't know, I feel like I'm playing this game way more strategically than I would usually play a beat 'em up. And I don't know if this game is uniquely like, I don't know if it's a function of the circumstance I was playing it in, or a function of the game itself, that like the systems are actually there in a way that they aren't normally. But I sort of love this game. Like I think it's the perfect like arcade brawler experience.
Yeah, I really like it too, and I like. I was just gonna mention, just one of the key things about a brawling game is just for it to be a visual spectacle.
Yes.
And all the details in the backgrounds and even like the the things that the foot soldiers are doing before you engage them in combat. Like
Yes.
like some of them are playing Game Boys, and some of them are carrying shopping bags through the mall, or like some of them are carnival barkers. It's so weird because they're like in
they're just like living their lives.
right, in those uniforms though.
Well, and also not just in those uniforms, but it's the animated series version, so they're robots.
Oh, right.
It's and like there's a version of them that's like eating a popsicle, which is so funny.
Yeah, I
because
encountered
like
that.
they don't have a mouth, Yeah, no, the game is full of humor, and I'm just so happy with it. Have you gotten a chance to do any like online or multiplayer with it yet?
Not yet. I've just been playing it solo so far.
I did hop into one level. I spent a lot of time, me and Ethan, and then more with like 3 to 4 of us, all together. And I did hop into one like, blind group of just like whoever was online to do a 6 players at the same time.
Oh, fun.
Which is chaos.
Oh, I'm sure.
But it rules. And I did make it to the end of the game this weekend. So I unlocked Casey Jones. You have to beat the game so that you can play as Casey Jones. And I just want to keep like jumping back into it at like harder difficulty levels, and like in the arcade mode. I don't know. I feel like this is a game that I'm going to get wholly under my. Let me ask you this: on PlayStation, is there a platinum trophy?
Good question. I didn't look.
Okay.
But it seems like there are a lot of trophies.
Yeah,
So,
well, yeah, there are a lot of achievements that they have built into like all the versions. So like I'm popping achievements on Switch. Even it's just they don't mean anything. Not that trophies mean anything either, but but we
I
can
like
pretend
them.
it's I like them too. That if there's a platinum trophy, then I think I'm gonna go for it on
nice.
on PlayStation, because it's just I just like it that much, and the design of all the characters and bosses. It's all just phenomenal. Like I couldn't be happier with it. Sorry, I promise I won't talk about this thing all episode. We will talk about other stuff, but I was really enamored with the frequency with which the characters' movesets reference moves that the characters do in other video games. That like you can see remnants of their special abilities from TMNT 3, the Manhattan Projects, in this game. Maybe it's singular Manhattan Project. It's probably singular. But you can see those moves. You can see their moves from both the Genesis and Super NES TMNT Tournament Fighters games that like the Turtles have some of those moves. And that's just like it's fun for me to remember that in addition to being cartoon characters and comic book characters and movie characters, that the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles have such a rich history of being video game characters that like there can be a game like this that is explicitly referencing all of their video game appearances. I don't know. I just love it so much. Other than that, I played a fair amount of Dragon Quest Builders 2 this weekend. And Pete, I just have one story about this that I want to share with you.
Okay.
So I recently built for my villagers a bathroom. They asked for a bathroom, and I built it for them, just a small room with a pot and a towel rack in it. And there's this giant worm thing that lives in my village, and he will prepare the ground for so he'll make the soil fertile. And at one point he was like, "Can you make for me some worm food?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure, I can make you some worm food." And he's like, "Here's the recipe. The recipe is 1 grass seed and 2 night soil." And I was like, "Night soil? What's night soil?" And anticipating my question, the worm said, "If you go into that little room you just built and go into that pot, you should be able to find some night soil." So this worm tricked me into taking poop out of the toilet that I built for my villagers and feeding it to him.
Excellent.
Yeah. So we were saying night soil all weekend. You've been playing something cool.
I have. I'm a few years late to this, but I've been playing Demon's Tilt, which is an homage to the old TurboGrafx 16 pinball video games, and it's all occult themed. There even has a tagline that says "occult pinball action." And I really don't know anything about pinball in general. It's sort of like a black box. I know enough to know it's way more complicated than I thought it was as a kid. But
Yeah.
I've learned this table, and I'm getting good at it. And I have the 37th high score globally, and I'm not sure if that's just PlayStation players or if that's all platforms. But either way,
Yeah.
I'm kind of proud of that. So
No, that's
it's
pretty.
a lot of fun.
37's high.
That's what I thought too. It was Saturday night because I was 52nd, and then I had an amazing game because there are rituals that you need to complete. There's 18 of them, and if you do, I mean, it's like hit this ramp and then do this thing, and if you complete all 18, then you get wizard mode, which is one of the ways you get a multi-ball and all kinds of bonuses. And I did wizard mode twice in that game, and so
Nice.
yeah, it was.
Is it just a single table in the game?
It's a single 3-tiered table.
Okay.
So it's it's got 3 pairs of paddles, top to bottom.
And is it like trying to like emulate a like real world? Because you said it was referencing more like the TurboGrafx like pinball games. So does it feel like it has a real world physicality to it, or is it like leaning into the video gaminess of it?
Well, I mean, I guess the physics of the ball and whatnot feel real-ish, but it does all sorts of crazy things that
that you wouldn't really be able to do.
Yeah, like stuff teleporting around and actually monsters that show up in the middle that you have to battle and all this kind of stuff. Yeah, so.
That's very cool. Do you know if it's available anywhere else or just on PlayStation?
It's on Switch. I know that. I checked that before I talked about it here.
I see. So obeying the rules of the show, I guess.
Yes.
All right. Well, that's very cool. That's what we've been playing this week. Let's get into the new releases and what we might be playing next week. Today, Tuesday, June 21st, Wreckfest comes to Switch.
Yeah, I only know about this because my father-in-law, who is a rather casual gamer, but he likes motorsports a lot, really likes this game. It's like a demolition derby type game.
So wait, are you like controlling monster trucks?
I don't know about monster trucks, but like, cars and smash it into other cars and things like that.
Here's a real problem that we've explored on the show before is that Mark and I don't know what a demolition derby is.
I am only kind of vaguely aware. I know you get a car, you pay as little money for it as you want, and then you have to outfit it with certain safety things. And I think maybe they often go on like a figure 8 type track, so there's a crossover in the middle, and the idea is to ram into the other cars and be the last one standing that's not disabled.
How do people not die in this?
I don't know.
They probably do. I'm probably being intense. This is probably a bad line of questioning. All right, so Wreckfest is out on Tuesday. Also out on Tuesday is Fall Guys Ultimate Knockout is finally on Switch. Did you play any Fall Guys when it was on when it first came out on PlayStation?
I just played like the tutorial. I didn't get. I'm not a big multiplayer, especially online multiplayer sort of guy, and so I was trying to force it, and then I kind of just concluded that this isn't for me.
Yeah, and it is just like if you're not into a multiplayer experience, like that's all this is, right? It's all just like wonky physics, obstacle coursey kind of stuff. I really liked it when it first came out. Sarah and I spent like one weekend with it, and it was fun to play. But there was one game in the second round called the Whirligig that Sarah couldn't wrap her brain around. So when we were like passing the controller back and forth, we'd get to, she'd be playing and she would do fine in the first match, get to the second step, which was the Whirligig, and it would just roll her. Like she just had no kind of control over it. And so it became like a frustrating experience more than anything else.
That's too bad.
But it's if it's going for a decent price, I would recommend people check it out. On Wednesday, we have to shout out, of course, June 22nd, a game called Why Pizza comes out.
It seems like an unnecessary question.
Yeah, I mean, why? Because you can feed a bunch of people for not that much money. It's got a lot of cheese on it. I don't. What do you mean? Why pizza? It doesn't make any sense.
Should be why not pizza.
Should be why not pizza. Thursday, June 23rd, Sonic Origins comes out on Switch and like everywhere. I'm sort of a little bit excited about this just because I haven't had a way to play Sonic 3 on like anything in a long time.
Oh, this is the collection?
Yeah, this is
That's
Sonic
right.
1, Sonic
Okay.
2, Sonic 3, Sonic and Knuckles, and Sonic CD.
Okay.
And a lot of those games, like Sonic 2 has been re-released on like everything all the time,
Yeah. Yeah.
But 3, and I think it's because it's tied up in the music rights for one of those or some of those tracks that are allegedly composed by Michael Jackson.
Mm-hmm.
But either they got around that or the music is different or who knows. But yeah, it should be a cool little collection, even if the sort of like payment and DLC structure is kind of messed up. So, just make sure going into that you know what you're getting. There's a whole chart you have to consult. And then on June 24th, Friday, a lot of interesting games coming out this week. Fire Emblem Warriors 3 Hopes comes out. Pocky and Rocky Reshrined and the Capcom Fighting Collection all come out. The Switch eShop is also doing a Capcom Fighting bundle that includes the Capcom Fighting Collection, Street Fighter 30th Anniversary Collection. Oh, just those two, I guess. It's those two games.
Are you planning on picking up the Fighting Collection?
Yeah, absolutely. Because there are a lot of games in there that I've never played before.
That's exactly what I was going to say, too. Mm-hmm. Especially the Darkstalkers games I've always been interested in and have never played.
Yeah, so the Darkstalkers games I know I've played. I had one of them, probably Darkstalkers 3 on Dreamcast. And I liked it, but there's something about like that era of fighting game with on disc-based systems where like everything just happens a little too slowly for me, like the loading up between matches and stuff.
Oh yeah.
That like it just brings the whole experience to a crawl.
That reminds me of Mortal Kombat Trilogy on PlayStation 1, where if you picked Shang Tsung, you had to choose 3 characters for him to morph into.
Because they couldn't load them all.
Yeah, right.
Oh, that's amazing. I played so much of the Nintendo 64 version of Mortal Kombat Trilogy. So much of it. Not a good place to play it, though, I don't think. Maybe there was no good place to play it.
Yeah, that's probably fair.
And then coming to the Nintendo Switch Online, Nintendo 64, Pokemon Snap is also coming out on June 24th. I can't imagine I'll put any time into that. I feel like I got my Pokemon Snap fix with new Pokemon Snap at the beginning of last year. Holy cow, was that a year and a half ago? Holy cow. But I'm interested in these other two games too. The Fire Emblem Warriors 3 Hopes and Pocky and Rocky Reshrined. But can you talk me out of Fire Emblem Warriors 3 Hopes?
Oh boy.
So let me tell you why I'm interested in it.
Okay, because I mean you've played this before, right?
Well, so I've played Fire Emblem 3 Houses.
Okay.
I played the mainline Fire Emblem game, which I loved a lot. It's among my favorite Fire Emblem games. But this is a Warriors game, right? This is a Muso.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah, based on the story and using all the characters from Fire Emblem 3 Houses.
Well,
so
do you not really like those Muso games?
That's
okay,
right.
So then don't buy it.
But it's got all these characters I love.
I never played the Zelda one, the pseudo sequel to Breath of the Wild, and Breath of the Wild is my favorite game of all time. And I was like, I'm not gonna like that. So
that's a strong argument. That is a strong argument. And Breath of the Wild, also one of my favorite games of all time. Age of Calamity, I think I played for like 4 or 5 hours and then and then said, no, I guess this isn't actually for me.
Yeah, I bought it for my nephew for Christmas that year, and I don't think he really liked it that much either.
I mean, I think those games are an acquired taste, and one of these days I'm going to acquire that taste. All right, let's get out of the new releases. Which brings us to a regular segment on our show. It is time for 433. In 1952, American composer John Cage wrote a piece called 433, wherein a performer or group of performers didn't play their instruments for 4 minutes and 33 seconds. For the purposes of this show, our instruments are talking about Nintendo. So for the duration of one performance, 433, Pete and I will talk about something not at all Nintendo related, thus fulfilling the contract of the piece. Pete, you and I have bonded over our shared love of the Bare Naked Ladies. So we are going to be ranking their first 8 records.
Yes. So everything up until Steve Page left the band, and not including live albums or the weird stuff like the Holiday album or the Kids album.
Although all 3 of those are great records.
True. So, but that leaves us with Gordon, Maybe You Should Drive, Born on a Pirate Ship, Stunt, Maroon, Everything to Everyone, and then we're considering Bare Naked Ladies Are Me and Bare Naked Ladies Are Men as 2 separate albums.
Okay. So, do you, this is difficult because I feel like for me, there's like an obvious like top half and an obvious bottom half.
That's exactly where I was going to go with that. And let's see if they're the same. So I think...
Ooh, this is fun.
I think... Okay, so my top half are Stunt, Maroon, Everything to Everyone, and Bare Naked Ladies Are Me.
Yes, which is the first part of that like 2 record set of Are Me and Are Men.
Correct, because Are Men is nowhere near as good as Are Me.
Nowhere near as good. So I 100% agree. Like that's
excellent.
That's the dividing. Although Catch Me on the Right Day and Gordon goes above Bare Naked Ladies Are Me.
Okay. I have a very clear least favorite as well. And I think we talked about this a couple months ago when I was listening to them all. And it's easily Born on a Pirate Ship.
See, now what are like the good songs on Born on a Pirate Ship? I can't think of them off the top of my head.
When I Fall is on there. Presumably other things. I can click on it.
Which one?
The Old Apartment is on there.
Yeah, that's good.
Break Your Heart is on there.
Okay, so Break Your Heart, that's a tough one for me to ignore.
So the part of the reason that I don't like the first 3 albums so much, well, part of it is that I don't think they're recorded very well. They don't sound very good. Yes. And then after the first 3 albums, they put out Rock Spectacle, the live album, and basically every song on there
sounds
is a better recording than what's on those first 3 albums. So is Break Your Heart was the one you were saying?
Yeah, and you're right. The live version of Break Your Heart is way better.
So every time I'm listening to Born on a Pirate Ship, I'm thinking, oh, I love this song, but this is the inferior recording of it.
Right. Is there a live recording of When I Fall?
Yeah, that's on there too.
I think the studio version is better though.
Oh, weird. Okay.
I do agree with you that Pirate Ship and Maybe You Should Drive both have very similar sounds to them. It's either like the way the drums are recorded. It's a combination of things. I think it's the way the drums are recorded and the like pedal or whatever, the quality of the bass, the sound of the bass is so strange and like I don't know if it's like gated or what, or if there's like some fuzz. There's something on there that bugs me that I just can't deal with. But okay, so we have precious little time here.
I don't think we're gonna make it.
We're gonna be fine. So you think bottom is Pirate Ship?
Yeah.
Okay. I can live with that, and then Maybe You Should Drive above that.
Yeah, although on some days I like Maybe You Should Drive a little more than Gordon, and then on other days I don't.
I
think I'll defer to you there.
I'm gonna campaign for Gordon to be higher.
To be higher than Our Men, even?
Yeah, I think so. For me, okay. I think it's number 5.
Oh boy. Okay.
And those are the extremes, right? Those are the most recent and the oldest.
Yeah. Yep.
We can compromise here. We can say pirate ship, then maybe you should drive, then Gordon, then army, then our men.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
So we got the bottom.
We got the bottom. Now we just need to lock in the top. What is? Yeah. Okay. We're running out of time. What do you think your number one is?
It might be Everything to Everyone.
It's Everything. Yes.
Oh,
yes.
for you too?
Yes.
Oh, good. Okay. I thought that was going to be controversial.
I mean, maybe it is, but it's not to me. I will never get over it. Like like first time I understood and like wrapped my head around the war on drugs.
Yeah, that song's amazing.
That song's incredible. And that's applause. So we're done. We don't know what numbers two through 4 are.
We'll never know.
We'll never know. We were accompanied today by pianist Kyle Shaw. All right, Pete, let's get into the news. I keep just instinctively wanting to call you Mark, and I know you're not.
That's fine. You haven't done it yet.
No, but I don't know if you've noticed every time I say your name, I'm like, Pete. We've got a new Direct incoming, a new Nintendo Direct, sort of. Yesterday, Nintendo announced that they will be releasing a Xenoblade Chronicles 3 Direct on Wednesday, June 22nd at 7 a.m. Pacific time. Presentation will include 20 minutes of information about the game. We know Xenoblade comes out on July 29th, moved up from its earlier release date of September. Exciting, sort of interesting. I'll be paying attention to it. Xenoblade Chronicles not totally a kind of game that I'm interested in, though I end up trying out all of them. But for me, the real question is, what does this mean for the existence of another Direct?
I'd say it lowers the likelihood.
Lowers the likelihood. Mm-hmm.
Doesn't mean it's definitely not going to happen, but it seems less likely to happen.
My take on this, look, I've been through a whirlwind of emotions. You know, I've been holding out hope for a Direct this month. My take on it is this doesn't affect that at all.
Okay.
Unrelated. Chances have not moved. Statistically, just as likely to happen next week as it was before. Is what I'm thinking.
All right. We will see.
We will, in fact, see. Continuing Reggie Fils-Amie's nonstop book publicity tour, the former Nintendo of America president gave an interview to CNET where they talked about a bunch of different aspects of his career, and in particular his time with Nintendo. I've pulled some highlights here. First is that they thought Labo was going to have a bigger cultural impact than it ended up having. Reggie said, quote, "Not only from a pure consumer gamer perspective, I saw huge potential with Labo in the classroom and as a STEM education type of product. Globally, it did well, but certainly not up to the expectations that the company had," unquote. Did you ever mess around with Labo?
I did not. Well, I think you showed me the piano when I was at your place a couple years ago. I guess I believe they thought it would do better than it did. But I'm also not surprised it didn't do as well as they thought it would.
Yeah, well, especially as you're like, if you're positioning it as a sort of like STEM, like an in the classroom sort of like learning tool, like how do you petition your school to buy like 30 Nintendo Switches, you know,
right.
in the interest of like teaching some like programming or engineering? Like, no, you're buying a video game system. You know, it's just not the. If it worked with phones and stuff that people already had, like maybe then, but
yeah,
you know, they would never do that. Next, a little bit here. The NES and Super NES Classic Editions were a solution to the problem of the Wii U's low sales in the pre-Switch era. Reggie doesn't see Nintendo returning to that strategy at any time, and that the lessons that they learned from doing that is really more about how to bring the classic library onto existing hardware instead of like new novel hardware. Reggie said, quote, "If I were back at Nintendo for a day, I would be much more focused on how does the company leverage all of its great content, deliver it to the consumer through that Nintendo Online experience," which they are doing. They're putting out some Nintendo 64 content. They're working with other platform holders to bring all of that legacy content. But that's where the opportunity is. Nintendo still has more Nintendo 64 content to leverage. They've got GameCube content content to leverage. They've got Wii content. I see the future of digitally delivered content to you, the consumer, as just the burgeoning opportunity that I would want to take advantage of. Sort of a non-Nintendo Wii answer from Reggie on the future of legacy content.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's a little disappointing. I would like a Game Boy Classic or like a Game Boy Advance Classic for
totally.
sure. But I think the right answer is to put the games out digitally. But let's go, let's do it. This like slow trickle thing. Like,
yeah.
Can we get everything we ever had on Virtual Console? Can we get Game Boy games, GameCube games, Wii games, like he said?
Virtual Boy games, of course.
Yeah.
For me, like the real answer or the question here for me is why not both? Like, it's I have both the Super NES and the NES Classic Editions sitting in my entertainment center. I have those libraries on my Switch, and I'm not mad about it. Like, I just like the physicality of these things, and It was this trip was different, but usually when I travel, I just throw my 3DS in my backpack because it's small, because it feels more portable to me. If I had a Game Boy Classic Edition that just had like a bunch of Game Boy games on it, I would bring that thing with me everywhere. It'd be so small, it'd fit in my pocket.
Yep.
Why not both?
While you're wearing your foot soldier uniform, you could be playing it in a mall.
That's right. That's
before
right.
the turtles come by.
The turtles come in, and I rip my my tie off so I can fight them. Another little piece here. When asked about the next piece of hardware for Nintendo, Reggie echoed what you hear from a lot of analysts, a lot of video game analysts. Nintendo says they're only halfway through the life cycle. Chip shortages and supply chain issues constrain any new hardware release, and Nintendo is fond of mid-generation hardware revisions. Sort of strange here, actually, how much he sounds like anyone with a podcast. He's not sure what they're going to do next, but Reggie knows that Nintendo sees both the challenge and the opportunity of following up on the Switch. Quote, for Nintendo to go successfully from Switch to whatever comes next is going to be a significant challenge, and they've already said that they're thinking deeply about it. Which to me means that he's got no idea.
Yeah, basically that's my read as well. But, interesting that he uses the word challenge just because it's going to be hard to come after the success of the Switch.
Yeah, totally. I mean, and like, especially after like the huge install base where it's just like, whatever you do next, whatever games you start making next, if you start releasing them to that new platform, they're just going to sell like at max like 1% as many copies because you don't have that many systems out in the wild. Like it's just brutal. It'll be interesting to see what happens and when it happens. But I feel like everything they do for a while has got to be Switch compatible.
Yeah.
And then I just like these two paragraphs about the DS. Reggie says, quote, when I first saw the Nintendo DS, we showcased an early Mario experience. We showcased a very early experience for Nintendogs. I was able to imagine what games could be. I was able to imagine what this product could do. DS was the first major consumer electronics device to use a touchscreen. Before that, it was really personal digital assistants it was really only digital personal assistants that had a touchscreen. And the ability to do precise movements to use for targeting, that really opened up one's mind to what it could do. But at that first E3 meeting with journalists like yourself, there was a fair amount of questioning and pushback and wondering what this product could be, especially when the Sony PSP was at the same E3. And the PSP was very much a linear progression of technology. A beautiful device, almost too beautiful. It would leave smudges on that big old screen it had. But the Nintendo DS was doing something completely different. And I just like this, for me, like encapsulates the sort of like, the Nintendo difference and like Reggie seeing that and kind of acknowledging that like what they do best is something special. It's not like they're doing the best version of a thing. They're doing their own version of a thing.
Mm-hmm. It was interesting. The most interesting thing about that to me was that he mentioned targeting with the stylus, and
Yeah, it's a bad application.
Well, actually, I don't know. I kind of liked it. I mean, I wish they would have explored maybe more like first-person shooter type things, because to me, like tapping where you want to shoot is more intuitive than like aiming with a joystick.
Yeah.
And like I had a game on DS called, I think it was called Touch the Dead, which is but it was basically a House of the Dead knockoff. So it was like a light gun game, but you were tapping the screen with the stylus, and I thought that was like a good application for it. I liked that, and so I would have liked to have seen more of that.
That's a great yes, and there should have been more like light gun games ported to DS. That is actually a perfect application. I think where for me where it fell a little short was in games like Moon or Metroid Prime Hunters, and then later like Kid Icarus Uprising, where not to harp on Kid Icarus Uprising's control scheme, which is too complicated and you should be able to change it, because that game is great, but the fact of like using the stylus to control where you're aiming is just hard to hold the thing.
Yeah, and I remember, I mean, I only played the demo of Metroid Prime Hunters, but I remember it was kind of awkward because you had to swipe to look, to turn and look, and then you tap to shoot, and sometimes you're trying to do one
as the other.
Yeah.
So that is, and it's especially when like they've in recent years, not recent years, that they've been doing it for a decade, but using the sort of like gyro control to sort of like fine tune the aiming and things, like in Splatoon does it, I guess even Breath of the Wild. I think that's a really elegant solution and something that I miss when I'm playing games that don't use it.
Yeah, I can see how that would work really well. But I just haven't been able to wrap my head around it. I guess I haven't played enough Splatoon that like I think I need to get past like a certain level of awkwardness, get a certain number of hours in doing it before it actually clicks, and I just haven't gotten there.
Yeah, I mean that's probably right. It's why I'm no good at first-person shooters in general. Is that I'm like I play them for a little bit and I'm like I'm tired and dizzy and I don't like this anymore.
Yeah.
Okay, so we got the May 2022 NPD report. As always, it's full of a bunch of different numbers, but let's look at just a few of them. Year-to-date Switch hardware sales are above Xbox and PlayStation, both in terms of units sold and dollars. So after like a little bit of trading off the lead with PlayStation, Nintendo's back on top there. The 10 best-selling games of the month include a bunch of Switch games. Nintendo Switch Sports is at number 3. Kirby and the Forgotten Land is at number 6. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is number 8.
It's amazing.
It just keeps
that's
going.
Unbelievable.
Pokemon Legends Arceus is number 10. And then also Lego Star Wars The Skywalker Saga and MLB The Show 22 are number 2 and number 5 respectively, and they both appear on Switch. So that's 7 of the top 10 selling games of May are playable on Switch, and half of all of the top 10 games are Switch exclusives. And then May 2022 year to date is a similar list of games, but with a couple different like points of data here. Pokemon Legends Arceus is coming in number 3 for the year, which is awesome. I mean, it's a Pokemon game, so I guess what do we want? And Nintendo Switch Sports is much lower, coming in at a measly number 13, which is still, of course, very respectable.
Yeah.
The game has been out for less than a week, so we may as well start speculating about DLC coming to Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: Shredder's Revenge.
Love it.
Shredder's Revenge narrative designer Yannick Beltzel was on an episode of the Xbox Expansion Pass show, and he talked about how difficult it would have been to add alternate costumes to the detailed sprites of the characters.
Yeah, it totally makes sense.
It totally makes sense, and is like the kind of thing that you would be like a normal add-on for a game that is,
rendered.
Rendered and polygonal and all that stuff. But yeah, the fact that it's all like digital or not digital, but pixelated and drawn, it would be just like designing all new characters. It would take forever.
You have to do every frame of animation.
Every frame, yes. Yep. And there's so many frames.
Right.
He said that it would be more realistic to add a new character after launch. Now,
which I would like that better anyway.
Me too. Do you have any candidates for new characters you'd like to see as playable in there?
I don't. I was trying to come up with something, and you're more knowledgeable about the turtles than I am. So
I do know a little bit about the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. It's true. I mean, so for me, there are two. I'm going to say three big characters that I would like to see.
Okay.
One is Jenica, the new female Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles from the comics.
Oh, I don't think I got that far in the run.
She shows up as a turtle. She shows up as a human in issue like 54 or something like that. And then mutates in issue 97, I think.
Okay.
So she's around for a long time before she goes turtle. But she's great. She uses bow and arrow and like claws, like Wolverine style claws.
Oh.
So she would be a cool fighter that way. Alopex, who is an Arctic fox. Yeah, she rules. And then, of course, I would love to see a little crossover with Usagi Yojimbo and get that rabbit samurai in there. You know Usagi Yojimbo?
I do not.
So it's a series by writer and artist Stan Sakai. And it's all like historical, like Japanese samurai stories, but everyone is animals. They're all animals. And the main character is a rabbit who is a wandering ronin, and it like retells all these like classic Japanese samurai stories with this rabbit character.
Nice.
And he's crossed over with Ninja Turtles a couple times.
Okay.
But sorry. So look, we were speculating wildly here. But Emu producer and CEO Cyril Inbert, these names are tough, did a little bit of damage control on Twitter because they're not prepared to announce anything. IGN tweeted the story and he quote tweeted it, said, some clarification here. There won't be alternative costumes at launch, and we don't have DLC plans so far, but we never say never. And then it's like a smiling, winky emoji.
Okay.
It will depend on many factors like the game's reception and the ideas/feedback that the awesome community will send us. So I don't know. Does that mean it's on us to like bug them about putting new characters in?
I know how much developers love that.
They love that.
Yeah.
Look, I'm just going to say it here quietly and politely. I'd like to see Usagi Yojimbo in the game. As part of Final Fantasy VII's 25th anniversary, Square Enix held a stream showcasing a handful of new announcements for the series. And specifically here, not for the series Final Fantasy, but for the series Final Fantasy VII. The game is now a series. And this includes a game that's actually coming to Switch. Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII is coming to all modern and last-gen platforms as Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII Reunion. Pete, does this mean anything to you? Does Final Fantasy VII do anything for you?
The only Final Fantasy game I've ever played. Oh, wait, no, there are two. Final Fantasy.
Yeah.
And Final Fantasy
NES.
Tactics. Yes.
Okay, great. Final Fantasy VII Remake rules. I loved it so much when I finally played through it on PlayStation 5. My first swing at it, I wasn't really digging it.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was like a little cheesy, and that the presentation was like sort of bad sometimes. And that didn't change, but I just learned to love the cheesiness.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. It's like watching the prequels where you're like, okay, this is fine. I can engage with this. But so a remake of Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII. The original game came out on PSP, which has now been name checked twice in this episode. In 2007 in Japan, 2008 in North America. The new version has HD graphics and reworked character models. There's a new combat system, remapped controls to bring it more in line with Final Fantasy VII Remake, new music arrangements, full voice acting, a bunch of other little gameplay tweaks and quality of life improvements. And it comes out this winter. So they're not calling it Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII Remake, but like they're kind of going back to like nuts and bolts with this thing to like make it a modern experience.
Mm-hmm.
Which is pretty cool. It's a game that I've never played before, despite being a huge fan of the original Final Fantasy VII and the new one. I guess because I've never owned a PSP.
Yeah, there you go.
Did you own a PSP?
I did. That's the one PlayStation hardware I did not own.
Mm.
And I know some of those games were backwards compatible with the Vita, but
Right.
yeah, I have no idea if that one is.
All right. Details about the Super NES Kid Kirby game, about a Super NES Kid Kirby game, emerged last week from the Kid Kirby Archives Twitter account. This is sort of a weird story, and I actually don't know how to verify if any of this is legit, because the only sourcing on it really seems to be this Twitter account that is Kid Kirby Archives. But I saw a lot of other outlets picking it up, so I thought maybe worth talking about. DMA Designs, which would later go on to become Rockstar North, where they were developing this game. It's got kind of a pre-rendered Donkey Kong Country like look to it, maybe even a little bit more like toyetic. Mm-hmm. The Twitter thread included a render of Prince DDD, so like the young King DDD.
Yeah, which is weird but cute.
It's weird but cute. It's weird to see him not huge, like not fat, right?
Right.
To see this like little skinny baby character. Then there are also sketches from 1995, sort of like early sketches, and manual pages, and a PDF breaking down the plot. But so this is also where I start to be like, what are we looking at here? Like, what is the source of this? Why would there be manual pages for a game that was so early in development?
That's like, really strange.
Isn't it really strange? Mm-hmm. So I don't know. Maybe this was real. Maybe it wasn't. 1995 is a pretty late Super NES game, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah, right. Because 64 was in 96, right?
Yeah. And yes, that's right. I mean, this would have been the same year, just as they're developing it, that like Donkey Kong Country 2 came out. Mm-hmm. So just like, using games with similar art styles as sort of reference points. But yeah, it's just one of those like nice little Nintendo mysteries that we didn't even know about, and now we have a little bit of information about. If it's real, might not be real. I'm sorry if I'm reporting news that's not real. And then, hey, finally, did you know that LegoCon was this weekend?
I did, because I read the show notes before we started recording.
Smart. Would you ever go to a LegoCon?
I think that sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah. I bet they've got the best like swag bags.
Oh, yeah.
No Legos in them, though.
Oh. Just Duplo.
Well, LegoCon was this weekend when they announced 8 new Lego Super Mario figures that were revealed. They are as follows. Nabbit, a purple toad, Hammer Bro, Waddle Wing, Toadie, Baby Yoshi, Red Yoshi, and Blue Shy Guy.
What is a Waddle Wing?
Waddle Wing is like a little... He's got like a little beak, and he's got a propeller on his head.
Oh, okay.
So much of this stuff is based on the new Super Mario Brothers characters. And yes, that's right.
Well, I've only played... Oh, I didn't mean it like that. I've only played New Super Mario Brothers Wii.
But I think only the second one. That's interesting. It's weird that like this is what they're basing those designs on. I don't have anything against those games. I think the games are actually, all of them are pretty good, and some of them are great. But I don't think any of them are like compellingly designed, graphically speaking. Right?
Right.
It's just weird to me to see that like Nabbit persists. Like, why are they trying to sell a Nabbit? Who loves Nabbit? Anyway, these characters all come out as part of Character Pack 5 on August 1st. They'll be $5.99 each, and Lego Peach and Lego Peach's Castle are available on the same day. Have you looked into getting any of the Lego Super Mario kits?
I don't have room for that kind of clutter in my life, but I do get Lego catalogs in the mail, and I do look at them kind of longingly when I do. I mean, they look really cool, but it's like, what would I actually do with them?
What would you actually do with it? I love, and I think you are still, I think that's a legit way to engage with a Lego product, is just staring at them in a catalog longingly.
I got on their list somehow, and I get...
You'll never get off.
Yeah, and I'm perfectly okay with that.
All right, Pete, let's get out of the news. All right, that is going to do it for this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society. Pete, thank you so much for joining me for this.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it was a blast. I mean, I've known you my entire life,
Yep.
and it's about time that you come on the podcast and
Yeah.
talk about Nintendo with me. Is there anything that you would like to plug? Tell the people about Rum Wings.
I have a podcast. It's just a monthly podcast. It's called Rum Wings, a tabletop podcast. It's ostensibly about board games, but we only spend about a third of the episode actually talking about the game we've been playing the last month. And then we just talk about whatever geeky, nerdy, pop culture-y kind of stuff we feel like.
Yeah, and it's a good time. I've gotten a lot of good board game recommendations from you guys. Not that I followed up on many of them, but every now and then I'm like, oh yeah, I should actually play that. That sounds like fun.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, it's a fun show.
And we have a Facebook page if you want to check us out there too.
All right. Again, thank you so much. Please remember to rate, review, and follow us on Apple Podcasts. If you like this episode, please share it on Facebook or Twitter, wherever you can share stuff. We appreciate it when you do that. You can follow us on Twitter. I'm at Patrick_Ellers. Mark, who is not here at the moment, is MKE Mitchell, and the show is at Nin Cart Society. Also, I mentioned earlier, of course, the Xenoblade Direct coming out on Wednesday. We will not be discussing that until the next news episode, as Mark is still going to be out of town. So just to set expectations for that, I should have mentioned that when we were talking about the Direct. But if you made it this far into the episode, you get that extra little piece of information. We also have a Facebook page, which is just Nintendo Cartridge Society. Anthony DeLuca made our logo. Our theme music is provided by 8-Bit Betty. You can get more of his music by going to 8bitbetty.com or by listening right now. For my co-host, Pete Pfarr, this is Patrick Eller saying thank you for listening.